morning. Let's get started on this portrait. I made this sketch and I made the sketch from a reference photo, but I'm not looking at the photo right now. I'm just going to paint it in, maybe change a few things and just let my imagination run its course. If you fancy joining in, this video is going to be about maybe half an hour, I guess. I'll know when I finish how long it took me, but half an hour or so, real-time painting, very minimal music and just very calm, creative sessions. If you want to join in, grab yourself some materials and make some time for art this morning. My name is Irene and I'm an illustrator and art teacher from the Netherlands, and I live in the UK. And I love painting in watercolors and gouache, and that's what I'm going to do today. So this is going to be my mixing palette. So I need to prepare some reds as well. I am lacking the vision for this piece a little bit at the moment, but I'm just going to get started with skin tones and then decide what to do with the hair and other areas. So, sure I don't put my brush in my coffee. It's easily done. It's a bit of a tricky portrait. I don't know how happy I'm going to be with it. I already feel a little bit hesitant. Sometimes it happens even when you start. It would have probably been good to do my sketch again, but I just really wanted to get painting, so there we go. So I'm starting with adding some warm colors, some reds, to the areas of the face that have a tendency to color a little bit more red. So there we go. Now I'm going to add some yellow tones to the cooler parts of the skin. So this paper is a little bit thin for watercolors. You can see it buckles quite a lot. I painted something on the other side. Oh, that's not supposed to happen. He is going to have a scar now. That's okay. I sort of like the smooth texture of the paper. I paint a lot on paper, on texture paper, and although I find that the quality of texture paper usually feels a bit more luxurious, I'm enjoying this smooth application of the paint. So I have rewatched all the Harry Potter films lately, and I watched the Harry Potter reunion as well. I wonder if any of you have watched it. It was quite fun to watch for me. When I was a kid, I used to watch these films so many times, and when I first moved out of my parents' house, Harry Potter 1 was the Philosopher's Stone, was the only DVD I had. Back then I didn't have any TV channels, so I just used to watch it over and over again. Because it was the only thing I had to watch. So I guess these hairs are going to be blonde. So it's okay if the colours overlap a little bit. You can divide sort of colours in the face into different zones. I don't know if you've ever seen that photo where you have like 3 sort of zones over the forehead, over the nose and eyes, and over the chin, showing some different sort of base colors that you could use in those areas. I tend to not stick to it too closely. I'm a bit stubborn. Whenever I start painting, all the rules sort of go out of the window. I'm not very good at keeping to those sort of rules. But they can be very helpful if you get started, just to get a bit of an idea of what's happening. I like the idea of, it's almost like he's looking into the sun, soaking up the sunshine. That's the sort of look I'm going for. And I think I'm going to use purple as shadow color today. I'm a bit in two minds if I should add something to the background. I like there to be some plant of some kind. I might quickly Google for a little bit of inspiration. So I'm Googling large leaves. Let me see if I get an idea. Maybe some monstera leaves, something like that. I like the idea of that. So there's going to be some large leaves going up here, maybe there. So sometimes a quick Google photo can help to get a bit of inspiration. I have been watching lots of sort of feel-good films and stuff lately. I've started a new series of Queer Eye. If you've never watched Queer Eye yet, I would really recommend it. It's so funny. These guys are so adorable and sweet, and they are just fantastic. And the people who they help and style, and everyone is just so deserving of a bit of love and care, and it's just a really proper feel-good TV. I'd highly recommend it. So, you can see my paper is buckling a little bit. Might not have been the best prepared for this painting. It's okay. In the meantime, the face can dry a little bit. Different colored greens. I'm using my paint very, very watery today, much more than I usually do. So, I realize my voiceover is lacking a little bit because I'm concentrating on what I'm doing. I had lots of things I wanted to talk to you about, but sometimes as soon as you pick up a brush, everything sort of fades a little bit. You have to concentrate on what you're doing. I am looking for some great non-fiction to read. I've been reading quite a lot of fantasy lately, and I love reading fantasy books. It's something I really enjoy. I love sort of disappearing into a magical world, and I find it very relaxing to read things that are sort of transporting you somewhere else. But I really want to read some more non-fiction as well. I think if you only read one genre, you miss out on so many great other things that you get lots of joy out. you can learn from, and books are such a great way of getting to know someone's perspective on situations that you might not meet in person, or opinions that you might not hear from your close families and friends, or topics you might not talk about otherwise. I just love them. So, going a little bit experimental here. So you can see this is a truly experimental drawing. I did not have any of this planned, and I'm not using a photo, so the beauty of this is I'm filming this and I'm doing the talk over, the voiceover at the same time, but I can always decide not to post it, right? So try not to think too much about the final result. So I made a little bit of mistake of starting to add details while I was still doing the shadows, which means that a lot of the shadows are going to be mixing with the details, but that's okay. So It's becoming a little bit messy, isn't it? I feel like my red tones are disappearing a little bit. So I might have to play some music with this video once it's finished. I am currently working on a children's book. I think I must have mentioned it before. And that means that it's quite hard to find the time to do personal artwork. Just simply because the book needs to be finished in a certain amount of time, and it takes quite a lot of hours to complete it. And I decided to paint it traditional, which just takes much longer than digital art. And because I have to photograph it as well and then edit it. It's not just the painting process, it's everything around it as well. But I'm enjoying it. It's really, really lovely. I just absolutely love being able to paint for a living. Just hard to believe sometimes, isn't it? When you work in an office all day and one day you think, wouldn't it be amazing to start making a living from art, and then before you know it, that is possible. I'm not sure how I feel about this painting, but I'm enjoying making it. It's nice to just see what happens and experiment a little bit. to be a bit careful here on the edge because the paint is still really wet. You see, I suddenly decided to make the background dark, and I feel like it is working. A bit more contrast here now. Should really let the paper dry a little bit before I carry on. You see, I'm holding it up, make sure it doesn't drip. It's almost like playtime. None of this has to be too serious. Just a sketchbook page. So, I feel like I'm almost sketching with my paint. I know I go off the camera a little bit here, but it's almost like I'm sketching with my paint. What I'm doing now is not so precise, so just see what happens. I like these really sort of wet paint strokes where it's a little bit out of control what happens. It's a little bit out of control and you get these nice blemishes and natural looking shapes. feel like this picture might be slightly bit childish. It feels a bit like teenage angst to me, but it's okay. Not everything always has to be completely as you expected it, isn't it? I was also not planning to use any black, and I've completely changed my mind on them. As you can see, I tend to use blues, purples, or greens for shadows, and not black. I think it needs a bit of drying to put this down. This is a very ominous drip going down there. Making this into a very dark picture, indeed. Take that away. So, people might think I'm a bit depressed if I... So, which was not the look I was going for. So, let's let that dry for a moment, see what all these shapes are going to look for, and yeah, maybe I will start filming again when I am doing the tidying up. Here we are. It is the next day and my painting has dried really nicely. Here I can touch it everywhere. It's really nice and dry. My paper has buckled a little bit. You can see I've painted on the other side as well, so it's okay, but it's a little bit buckled. Once I close my book and I put some weight on it, it will become nice and flat again, so that's alright. And actually, I was a bit unsure when I finished this yesterday. I thought it was a little bit sort of teenage angst, but melodramatic, but now it's dry. I'm actually quite happy with it, and I love all these sort of random shapes that you create when you use lots of water. I know lots of watercolor artists trying to avoid these bleeds, but I really like them, and I often create them on purpose by dropping some extra water in my paint. I just love those textures. So I think the only thing I want to add, I don't want to spend too much time on this today, I just want to feel like it's finished and add a little bit more detail. And I think the only thing I'm going to add today is some more defined leaves and flowers. I feel like the leaves, they're all a little bit gentle, integrated into the painting. This big Monstera leaf, I don't really know what to do with that yet. I might make that a bit more defined as well. So I think maybe some darker eyelashes and some more leaves, and then I'm going to call it finished on this painting. I don't think I'm going to make a print out of this one. Let's see, perhaps I'll change my mind. So, sip of coffee. I'm going to use a small brush today. I have my water here. It is a nice cold winter day today. Let me see, what colors am I going to use? Maybe a dark blue. Yeah. Let's do it. So I need to wet my paint a little bit here. I will need some of these paints later on as well, so that's okay. There we go. maybe a bit of this. I think it's already primary blue. Oh, no, ultramarine. So what I'm thinking of doing is adding maybe some finer lines. I have some of the big leaves here. Perhaps I can add some smaller twigs and finer lines. So shall I wipe off the excess of my brush? So I think that's instantly a bit darker than the lines that I created before. I want this to be almost like a separate layer, darker and a bit more defined. I think this line is a bit too thick, but it's okay. Do I have a slightly pointier, thinner brush? Maybe this one. I think that's better. I might just take this off a little bit. So it sort of happens when you go in the morning. I've not done any other painting yet. So quite like this line. I always say this in my classes, and this is a mistake where I'm not listening to my own advice, but painting is a bit like exercise. You need to warm up a little bit before you dive into the deep end and do the more complicated moves. It's like when you go running, you don't sort of wake up and instantly run a marathon. You do stretches and warm up and training. Art is just like that. You cannot just expect to wake up and instantly paint a masterpiece, but maybe you can be lucky and it goes well, but usually you need to warm up a little bit. Warm up a little bit, lean in. You need to practice as well. And yes, I'm sure there's people who wake up and instantly paint lots of detail and create a masterpiece, but for most of us, we need a bit of a warm-up. And also, maybe sometimes it does go right and you paint it without a warm-up and you don't get injured. But then there's other times when you might mess up a painting because you were impatient and went straight into the deep end. So, it is really nice start of the day when you have this really crisp daylight. It is a very lovely day today. It's freezing. There was lots of ice in my garden this morning, but the sky is blue, the sun is shining. This is really perfect winter's day. It's really perfect winter's day. And the light is just perfect for painting. So sometimes when you have a painting like this, where you're a little bit unhappy about it, it actually gives you freedom to experiment a little bit more. So I'm trying some things now that I would, that I don't usually use. I don't usually do these type of leaves on faces, and it's a little bit different from my normal work. But actually, because I was a bit unhappy about this painting already, I think a bit of freedom to experiment. I don't have to worry about messing it up, because I sort of thought it was messed up already. And in a strange way, that is liberating. Does that make sense? Does it make sense to not be worried to mess it up because you already think it's messed up, and because of that, the pressure of creating something that you're really happy with falls away, and it allows to create just freely without any expectations. I don't know if anyone else feels like this sometimes, but so I think I want a clear line here over the cheek to the eye. I'm actually quite happy with what I'm doing here, but I don't want to overdo it. I need to stop on time. So maybe some of these could have some roots. Let's see. So then I think I'm going to call it finished. I don't like to dwell on paintings too much. If I'm unhappy, then I'll just make another piece. It's not. If I'm happy, I'm happy, but I don't tend to work on things for ages and ages tinkering. I still think the painting is slightly emo, but that's okay. Maybe it was my vibe today. Maybe it was what I needed. So I'm just looking if there's anything that I feel I missed. So I decided to make the background a bit darker to make the picture pop a little bit more. So I'm using my large brush and I'm going over my painting, just the background. I know I love all these blemishes, but I feel like the picture could pop a bit more, and I'm going to go over this leaf. I'm not quite happy with this monstera leaf. So I don't think the picture really needs it. So I'm going to cover it up, and I think then that is it for this painting. If you see it shine through the black a little bit, that's fine, I don't mind it. But I just find it a little bit too busy, and I think the picture would be better with an even, fairly even dark background. I'm using this huge brush. This is a brush that I think comes from my grandmother. It's nice, I like painting with it. Holds lots of water. So I need to be a bit careful not to hang my sleeve in the painting. So over these leaves. So the black doesn't have to be even for me. I quite like those darks and lights that you get when you lose lots of water and if paint dries up a little bit randomly. So it doesn't have to be even for me, but I just think it makes that face stand out a bit more. It's a bit off camera. Oh, there we are. You can see the top of the page. So maybe I can make some white flowers in there once it's dry. See, this is the problem. I get started and then before you know it, I thought, oh, I just do a few little touch-ups, and before you know it, I'll spend another hour on a painting. So not going all the way to the edge today. There we are. Need to be a bit careful, a bit mindful here in the edges. So it's funny how when I started this painting, I envisioned it a little bit different from what it has turned into. I thought it would be someone basking in the sunshine, but instead it is turned a little bit darker than it was original. So not tempted to tinker too much more. So you can see it's very, very wet. I hope it doesn't stain the painting on the other side, but if it happens, it happens. Can't worry too much about these things, can you? I'm actually quite happy with that. I think with the even background, it feels a little bit more me. So finished. I need to carry on. I need to go do something else. So this is done. I'm going to call it finished. It's very, very wet here, the black in the background, so that needs to dry. And you can see there's already these dark and light marks that start to appear. Here, I can zoom in a little bit. Show you. Show my camera. Doesn't wobble too much. So, you see some of the strokes. I like these moody, dark mixes of color. You can see I've not been super precise on my edges. I'm just leaving it a little bit rough, and that's fine. So, you know, having a face covered in leaves is not the most original thing. There's lots of artists who make art like this, but for me, it is something that I haven't done for a long time. Not since I was a teenager, maybe, and I quite enjoyed it. Maybe I'll do a few more of these type of portraits in the next few months. So let's zoom out. I might share a photo of it here at the end when I'm finished, when it's dry, to show you an overview of what it looks like now. I might do a little bit of editing digitally to tidy it up, and I don't know, I'm a bit into mine if I am going to make this into a print. If you'd like to have a print of this, yeah, let me know. Maybe I'll create some in my shop, but I've not quite decided yet. If you enjoyed this video and you like these sort of calm, with no music, just me chatting and painting sessions, yeah, make sure you subscribe to these videos. I'm planning to release a new one every week. At the moment I'm doing some portraits, but at some point I might paint some other things as well. I'm not super consistent in my style. I like to try different things in different mediums, and I don't want to promise that this is the style I'm going to paint in, because it's quite likely that I will change that a little bit again in the future. Yeah, make sure you subscribe and let me know what you think. If there's something you'd love to see more of, I'd love to hear from you. And you can always find me on Instagram and here on YouTube. So thank you so much. I hope you have a really lovely day, and I'll see you all soon again. Bye!